welcome to another episode of The Route. Maybe you're driving to another stop in your truck. Maybe you're getting ready for the day, getting all the chemicals loaded. Maybe you're sitting down, scheduling out all the routes for this week. Wherever you're at, welcome. Excited to have you here. Thank you for listening, and let's talk about scaling your pest control company. So today, I want to talk about a topic that is often very much overlooked, but is probably super relatable and will touch home for you if you own a pest control company. So do you ever feel like in your company that whenever anything happens in your company, you have to react to that individual thing? And what I mean by that is, let's say one day a technician just calls in the morning and says, hey, I can't show up on my route today. And then boom, you got to figure out how to cover for that. And then later that day, another technician says, oh, hey, we're out of chemicals. Like we need more of this chemical. And then it's like, oh shoot, okay, now I got to figure out this. And then maybe the next week you guys are ready to buy a new truck. And it's like, okay, wait, we got to figure out exactly what we need for the truck and how we got to do it. And then the next week a new technician's starting and you got to figure out exactly how to onboard him and what to get in and the paperwork and how to pay him and get him into your payroll and anything that happens in the business. Maybe the next day a customer calls and says, hey, you guys do mosquito treatment? And you're like, yeah, and you try to figure out the pricing and the size of the house and what you would do for that and how much time it would take you and which technician would do it and the chemical and you have to. And everything in your business is an individual decision. If that sounds familiar, you're probably running your business super emotionally. And it probably feels super exhausting because everything you do is individually focused. So if something happens, you do one thing to solve that thing. Something happens, you do one more thing. The ideal situation is you have systems in place that you fall back on and that handle every situation. So basically what a system does in your business is it can take any variety of situations that happen and funnel them into an easier, smoother result. So now 10 different things can happen, but there's one similar result. Or 5 different scenarios happen and you only need to respond in one way rather than 5 different ways, 10 different ways. And if you're running your business currently in the version A that I was explaining, you're probably super emotionally drained because everything requires your emotion. A technician will call you and say, hey, we have a family vacation next week and we want to have some time off. How does that sound? And now you're emotionally torn trying to figure out, what do I do for this guy? How is this fair for the other guys? What am I going to do for these customers? And it's emotional. And then another customer calls and says, hey, I can't afford my bill anymore. Can you lower the price or can I cancel? And it's super emotional. You're trying to figure out, oh, they're a great customer though, and I don't know what to do, and I want to keep the customer. I don't want to lose revenue. And it's super emotionally draining, and it's also taking up a ton of your time. You probably realize that part of things, but you probably don't realize what it's actually costing you on top of that. I was talking to another owner this week, and he was explaining to me this exact issue, that he didn't have things in place, and everything in his business required his attention and focus for it to get done. And specifically, he was hiring technicians recently, and he was going through the interview process, and he didn't feel confident hiring someone because he didn't have an onboard system in place to help that technician be successful. So we identified that it's actually costing him top tier talent in his business because he doesn't have things in place, because he is the bottleneck in his business. Everything requires his attention and his time, and so he's losing top talent, top revenue, top profit, top things in his business that can take so much time off his plate because he doesn't have things ready and systems in place. So if you're in that same boat, you're probably missing out on revenue, on people, on customers, on profit that you could have, on time for yourself, because everything relies on you. So I want to go through in this episode and kind of break down what to do if you're in the situation, which most people probably are, and simple systems you can put in place so you're not stuck solving every single situation individually, because it's draining, it's losing you opportunities, and it's not sustainable. So one that I would recommend right off the bat is, let's talk about employee compensation. So a lot of times people hire an employee and it's like they kind of just like Google or put in a Facebook group like what's the going rate for technicians, and they figure out like a really competitive offer because they want to make this guy super happy. So they're like, hey, we'll pay you commission plus this, and then they just go with that. What you should do for employee compensation, specifically technicians, is you should pay a base hourly rate plus a few bonus options. So for example, you want the hourly rate to be somewhat competitive, so 22, 25 an hour, depending on your area. and then have 2 or 3 things that are important to you and your business that drive revenue and results. So for us, Google reviews was a big one, and 2, termite inspections was a big one. So if technicians got a Google review, they got $10 per review, and if they referred someone, so if they were at someone's house and they saw termite tubes, and they texted the office and said, "Hey, just noticed this at this person's house. You guys should go and do an inspection." If we sold that job, they get $50. So those 2 things were their bonuses. We had a few other ones, depending on the season, and then their hourly rate. When you do it this way, you'll have technicians who are incentivized to work hard, who are driving revenue and reviews to your business, and are focused on their role. You don't want 10 different things that factor in their compensation. You don't want them paid based on commission, because they're not driving the commission. They're not driving the revenue, because they're not the sales rep. You want sales reps paid on commission if you're going to do commission based, but not the technician. If you pay a technician on commission, as you scale your business and increase revenue, now your margins never increase because you're stuck paying a technician that much. With that compensation plan, you want to have very clear time. So we did 4-10s. So 4 days a week, 10-hour shifts. And then one of the most important things is we had a attendance bonus. So early on, we identified that when technicians called out or they didn't show up, especially during busy season, it was really hard for our business. Like, you've probably been there too. Someone calls out, can't make it, and now you're scrambling to cover for them. So we decided to incentivize it. We said, hey, March through October is peak season for us. Like, we need people present then. So we said we'll give a $1,000 attendance bonus at the end of the year for anyone who doesn't miss any days. For any day you miss, it takes $100 off that attendance bonus. If you miss a half day, it takes $50 off. And that was the standard. So by having this in place, if any technician called or texted or asked me, hey, I've got a vacation for 3 days in the end of June, can I go on it? Cool, you can go on it. It's going to cost $300 from your attendance bonus. So now I have no emotion attached to this decision. I don't need to think, oh, but he's the best tech and I want to make sure he's happy, or, oh, he's not a great tech, and so, like, I want to be harder on this guy. Like, there's no variables for me. There's a system in place. The technicians know what they're paid on and how they're paid, and now we just default to that. So it's up to them. They can go on their vacation. They know what it's going to cost them, and sometimes they'd go, sometimes they wouldn't. Or if a guy one morning texts me at 6 a.m. and says, dude, I woke up sick. I don't think I can make it today. Super simple. I don't need to fret over it or be frustrated or figure it out. It's just, okay, hey, if you can't make it today, that's going to cost you on your attendance bonus. We really need you, but we'll be able to figure it out without you if we have to. So because people knew, a lot of times I wouldn't even need to have that conversation, but because they knew what was on the line for them, a lot of times they show up, they make it happen. So putting compensation plans, schedule plans, things in place, bonuses, structures, now you have no emotion attached to it. Things are just a system. The last one is we gave our technicians a 25-cent raise every quarter. So every year they'd get essentially $1 if they're up to standard. So now I don't need any sort of awkward conversations or, hey, I feel like I'm underpaid or this. But like, hey, as long as you're with the company, we'll continue to raise your pay as long as you're meeting our standards. There were times when we would give technicians an extra bump or promote them to like a head technician or higher than that. But now there's, again, no emotion attached to it. Both parties, us and the technician, are on the same page. We know what to expect, and they know what to expect. And there's no awkwardness of like, oh, this guy's been with us for 2 years. We haven't given him a raise. How much should we give him? Well, we gave this guy this, and now this guy this, but what's going right now? Like, all those emotional things don't need to happen. So there's one system you can put in place. Number 2, employee onboarding. So technicians coming into the business or office people, you really want a smooth process for them to be successful. So you need a technician onboard packet. You need a training designation of how long and who it's with. So we would do a ride along for a week. So day 1, they would simply not do anything and just watch our lead technician. Day 2, they would take over the reporting and putting things in the app. Day 3, they'd start helping with the service. So they do like half the service. Day 4, they would lead out with everything, and our head technician would do the reporting on the back end. Day 5, they would do everything. Our head technician would just watch. So slowly having them take over the entire role, and again, making sure from day 1, hey, your role today is just to watch. You don't need to do anything. You can ask questions, but we don't expect you to perform anything at all in the job. Just really observe and get everything you can. And now they know exactly what to expect, and they can slowly start to be successful rather than them just showing up day one. This might be your experience. They show up day one and it's like, cool, thanks for showing up. I've got 10 stops today. You're gonna come with me. Here's the equipment. If you grab that, we'll grab this, and let's go make it happen. And you're just winging it the whole time. Now you don't need to wing it. And then what we do is week 2, ideally they're on their own, but by Friday the head technician would basically check them off. And the way you're able to do that is within a week. Sometimes it was last week. We got people up and running in 2 or 3 days sometimes, because we had an extensive onboard packet that they were required to read and pass before they went on their own. So the office manager would go through that with them. They'd go through that on their own time, the nights and mornings or the weekends before they started. But it covered everything from what we expect, how to talk to customers, what chemicals we use, how to use our app, what happens in certain situations, the different services we provide. It covered everything. And so if you can really set a technician to be successful, you can make it happen faster and with less of your energy. So make sure to have those kind of things in place, and also know, hey, these are the KPIs we track you on. If you can set that standard from day one, then there's harmony between you and your tech. There's a lot of jobs, and you probably worked in a job before, where you show up to work and your owner or boss kind of tells you what to do and you start doing it, but you really have no idea if he's happy with you or not. It's kind of like you're just hoping that he likes the work you're doing. You're a hard worker, so you assume he's happy with your work, but there's no way to measure it or track it, and kind of prove to your owner or boss, like, I'm the best one here, or I'm meeting your standards. So put a scorecard in place that you can track, and so your technician also knows what you're grading him on. So we had 6 metrics. You can decide what you want in your business, but the 6 we decided were the most important for our technicians and for the success of our company were technicians being on time, how long they spend at each service, taking 2 pictures at each service, leaving a note in each customer's account, and their drive score. And there was a couple others we'd kind of filter through. Those were the main 5. We had a few others that were kind of seasonal. But deciding on what you want, and make sure they're under the technician's control. You don't want like upsells. We personally wouldn't have that on their scorecard, because that's a skill that they would need to learn and develop. And maybe half the services they did that day were people that are already upsold, so they don't even have an opportunity to upsell someone, and so their percentage wouldn't be a fair representation. So just make sure they're super in line with what their role is. So from start to finish, onboard packet, training schedule, and from day one, we would tell them, hey, we want you on your own by Monday of next week. So we have 5-6 days of training. This is your time to ask a ton of questions, to learn, to get everything you need to know, because come Monday, it'll be just you in a truck, talking to customers, doing everything. So please know that and make sure that we can help you in any way. So setting the standard and setting the expectation ahead of time, so they know, rather than just showing up and, hey, let's do it together. We'll probably be together for a few weeks and we'll see how it goes. And I might need to head out for a few days to do some other jobs, but I'll leave you for this. That's how a lot of companies do it. You don't want to do that. So compensation plans, onboard processes. Number 3, price sheets. So one of the worst things you can do is just sign people up based on how sold they are. Someone calls in and they need a service, so we sell them on a higher price. Or someone calls in and they're somewhat interested, they're asking around, so we do a lower price. A lot of sales reps price their services based on how sold a customer is. You want a very simple either sheet or process or outline of what you charge for what service. That's it. What you don't want to happen is you sign up Sally Joe for $80 a month, but you sign up Sarah for $60 a month, and they live on the same street. And then one day they're talking to each other, and they figure out that they're being charged $20 different for the same service each month. And now they're unhappy, and they're both unhappy because it feels dishonest to both of them, and so they both cancel. And that might be a rare situation, but the principle is the same. You don't want customers on different pages, because then if you go to raise prices, now you're raising her. If you do a $5 price raise for each of them, now for one of them, that's a much bigger chunk than the other person, and they're still different. So every customer on each service should be the same. And if they're not, obviously customers sign up at different times. You might have raised prices a while back, or you're starting to now. And so you want it the same going forward, and as much as possible for people previously. You can do bundles, you can do different kind of tiers or different discounts, but all in all, you don't want to make one-off exceptions or decisions for customers. This will really help you when you're selling, especially in person. If you do like a inspection or a quote, a lot of owners I talk to kind of price it based on feel. Like, yeah, for this one, it looks like it's going to take me 2 hours to do, but it's going to be this much. And so we're going to charge probably like $700 for this termite job. And it just comes out of the air. And customers feel that. And then it doesn't feel very convincing. And so a lot of times you don't realize this, but that's why they're going to say, hey, let me think about it. I'll get back to you, because they don't feel conviction from you. If you can have a super strict way of doing it, like just sit down with them, hey, your house is this size. Based on this size of home, we charge this much. I can get you a discount for this first service because of XYZ, but ongoing, it's going to be this much. That's our standard rate. How does that sound to you? That's a much more compelling way to sell someone, and more people will sign up when they can see numbers and price sheets and things that are super clean and standard. So make sure all your prices, all your different services have very clean and consistent prices to them. Number 4 goes right off that, your services. So make sure your services, the frequency, what you cover is very standardized as well. Because one of the worst things that can happen in your business is you're growing your business, solo operator, and you have, let's say, 300 customers. You know them all by name. They know you. You love them. They love you. And you know exactly what to do at each house. You know, at Mrs. Jones's house, you do the backyard but not the front yard. And then you know at Mr. Thompson's house, he only wants the right side of his house treated because on the left side his dog used that area. And then you know at Tammy's house, you do the whole property. But then at Sarah's house, you do the inside and then only part of the outside. And then at John's house, you see what I'm saying? Like, if each house is so different, it might work for you now. In reality, it's probably not working. It's probably really frustrating and you don't enjoy it. But it especially won't work as you scale. You can't hire a technician and expect them to replicate that and be like, okay, so like just here's all the lists, and these are the houses we do on Mondays, but these are the houses that we only do the front. These ones we use this chemical, these ones we don't. These ones we treat every month, these ones we treat every 3 months. Like, it's not a scalable business, and it's going to take way more time, because then when someone calls in and they're like, hey, I want to reschedule my service, now you're trying to check which one is it, which service is it, have we done it before, or were we there last month, or were we not? You can't do that. So have your services super, super clean and consistent. One of my mentors told me early on, because I was a sales rep at first, and I would try to tailor to the customers, because you probably know customers request lots of different things. They want things done a certain way. And so I would try to sell that way, and I wanted to really tailor to each customer. He would tell me, you want your service as vanilla as possible. So just the same every single time. The customer knows what they're going to get, and you know what you're going to give, and your technicians know what you're going to give. So your technicians can go through an entire day and do 10 or 15 houses all the same, and they know what to expect, and they get the job done. And all of your customers know exactly what to expect. And the best way to do this is have an extremely premium service that is the same every time. So take care of the full yard every time, the eaves every time, the house, all the bushes, the perimeter, the inside. You don't need to do the inside every time, but everything else, every single time we go, we do all that, and then we ask about the interior. That's going to make it super easy for your technicians. Your customers are going to love it because it covers anything they could possibly want. And then as a business, you can scale a lot faster because you can onboard people and they can know exactly how to do that. So make sure all of your services are super clean and consistent. I wouldn't offer more than 2 service frequencies. Honestly, I would just offer 1. We only did quarterly pest, but if you want to offer 2, you can. I would not do 3 or more. So I talked to owners who are like, yeah, we do quarterly, we do bi-monthly, we do monthly. We do some every 3 weeks, we do some twice a month, and it's just way too much. And then scheduling is an issue, and technicians is an issue. So make it super easy and smooth. Number 5, your vehicles and your equipment. So you want to make sure that things are really smooth with your everything you buy. So what happens in some businesses is, let's say you buy a new brush, you buy a new sprayer, or you buy a new something, and 6 months go by and things are going well, but then all of a sudden out of nowhere, boom, the thing's broken and you need a new one, but it's a week out, and for the next week you got to figure out how to manage, how to spray, how to treat with a makeshift one, or delay all the services, and it's just super tough. So you want to do a weekly truck check and equipment check. Every single Monday morning, our guys would come in and we would check all their equipment. And they knew an exact scorecard of what was being checked, what the standards were, and they'd be scored on that. That'd be part of their weekly scorecard. By doing that, not only will your equipment last a ton longer because they know it's being checked and they're going to maintain it better, but you can easily make little tweaks and fine tune things along the way rather than just waiting till something breaks and then trying to fix it. So with little sprayers, with B&G cans, with the power hose, with the rig, with the reel, with tightening things, it's a great role to put one of your top technicians in charge of. Or if he's your only technician or you have a few technicians, start to give someone that responsibility before you promote them fully to a head technician and start to see them as like a service manager. Like, hey, I'm going to put you in charge of these weekly truck checks. You are very good with maintenance and repairs and nuts and bolts and all this kind of stuff. So I need you to be the one that twists and turn everything, make sure everything's in order every single week. And eventually I've got bigger things in store for you, but I need to just start there. So it can take zero extra time for you, and you can delegate to someone who now feels trust from you, and your business can run a lot smoother. So every single week, bring in the trucks, bring in all the equipment, make sure things are running properly and smoothly. Make sure each hose works cleanly, each gun sprays cleanly, there's no drips or leaks. And if you're doing that weekly, your equipment, everything's going to last way longer, and you're going to save money, things are going to be more efficient, and you're not going to run into those situations where on a random Thursday afternoon you get a call, hey, my rig doesn't work. And it's like, shoot, what do I even do? Who do I call? I got to figure it out. And now you lose your entire afternoon trying to repair this one thing. And then that next Friday, you're way behind on what you were supposed to do yesterday. And all the customers from that Thursday are now behind too because they didn't get sprayed. And now you're trying to reschedule. And now you're picking up houses on a Saturday that you expected to be at your son's soccer game. Like, all those things won't happen if you have these systems in place. So do a weekly truck check. Have your technicians scored based on their performance. And that'll make your life a whole lot easier. Last one, number 6, chemical tracking and reorders. So similar to the vehicles and equipment, it's frustrating and draining to be in situations where out of nowhere you're out of chemicals. And on a random Tuesday morning, your technician texts you, hey, we have no more blank. We have no more demand or whatever, psychic. And you're like, oh, shoot. And then you run to a local supplier and you buy chemicals and it's more expensive than it typically is because you're going local rather than doing like a bulk order. And then you put in a bulk order, it's not going to get there for a week, and now you're behind, and just, it's a mess. And now you lose your whole day trying to sort that out. So put in a system in place where there's a minimum threshold for each chemical. So for granules, for liquid chemicals, for baits, whatever it is, have a minimum threshold. Put a technician in charge of that, or it can be you. Whenever the chemical gets down to that threshold, that's when you reorder, and have a specific reorder amount. So for example, for let's say bags of granules, we could say, hey, our minimum reorder amount or our threshold is 10 bags, and our reorder amount is 30 bags. So whenever we get down to 10 bags of granules, immediately that triggers a reorder of 30 bags, because we know from the time that we place an order till when the order arrives, 10 bags is more than enough to get us through that amount. So try to figure out exactly that amount and then double it. So figure out how long it takes for chemicals to arrive, because you want to figure out worst case scenario. If they're 3 days late, you want to make sure you have enough. So if it's bottles of a chemical. Okay, so when we get down to 5 bottles, we reorder 15 bottles. And then boom, that random Monday morning, technicians grab their chemicals and then it's at 5 bottles. Someone tells you, hey, we're at 5 bottles. Cool. You place the order for 15 bottles. And then throughout that week, a couple more bottles get used. But then by the next Monday, you're down to 2 bottles. The new 15 arrive and you're good. You'll never run into issues of being out of chemicals if you do it this way. And this is another great example of something you can pass off to a technician to give him some responsibility in the business and have him start to gain some trust and some reputation with you and what he can do. So set those thresholds, and then you will have no issues with customers not getting their services, technicians not having what they need, and then you being tied in different directions. So I just want to go over those things. Those are 6 kind of main ones that are top of mind for me, because I've talked to so many owners recently that just don't have things in place, and I see it, I feel it. They're stressed, they're emotionally pulled in every direction. They work 15 hours a day, and every single minute of every day is an individual decision that they need to make. The best way to run a business is to have systems in place, because every person in life has basically a certain amount of mental capacity each day. And so every little thing you do is taking up more and more mental capacity and requiring your attention and decisions. And we can only make so many decisions in a day. And so by the end of the day, a lot of people just feel so exhausted. A lot of owners just feel so tired because they made so many individual decisions. They have no energy left to make another decision or to decide another thing or to show up for their family and have energy. So if you can put in these systems, it's going to take off all those decisions that you're making. And now your mind will be free and your energy is free to actually make decisions on the things that matter. Like, okay, let's sit down and look at our pricing and let's see who we need to raise prices on. Or cool, let's, at the beginning of the month, let's look at our monthly goals and what's our marketing strategy going to be this month? How many new customers are we going to get? Or, okay, this is the growth we did in the last quarter. What's the goal for this quarter? How many new customers can we get? What's our profit margin going to be? When are we going to hire our next technician based on these numbers? Those are higher leverage situations and thought processes you want to have mental energy for, and not the little weeds of, oh, how many dollars are we going to pay this technician, and when are we going to buy new chemicals, and what does this truck need when we buy a new truck, and all these kind of things. So free up all your mental energy, put systems in place. If you don't have any yet, use some of these, and then anything else in your business, start to systematize it. Start to document, what do you do each time? So last time this situation happened, what did you do? Okay, let's make that a system. And then if it doesn't work, we'll just fix the system. But at least let's rely on systems rather than decisions every time. This is going to make your life a whole lot easier. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have any other owners, pest control owners that you know that this would be helpful for, please send this to them. That'd be super awesome for me and for the podcast as a whole, and for growing this group and community to help people run their businesses more smoothly, more effectively, with less energy and more profit, more excitement, and just more joy in their business. So again, thank you for listening. This is The Route. Please leave a review if this has been helpful, and we will see you on the next episode.